Well, I hope that you've been having the time of your life. Just remember, that's my only advice. I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so special about that place. Even your emotions had an echo in so much space. And then you're out there without a care. Yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. Possibly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Allegiance Air Flight to Fort Lauderdale. Please know that seats A, B, and C are on your right, seats D, E, and F are on your left. Because we're operating on an automated weight and balance system, it is important that you sit in the exact seat you are assigned. This is for your safety. I probably didn't say it right, and they'll probably kill me once they see it. Hi, I'm Victoria Flowers. I am from Charlotte, North Carolina, born in Washington, D.C., raised in the Carolinas. I am a mortgage loan officer, 32 years, and I am now currently living in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I am still doing mortgages, but embarking on this music scene here.
So talk about your time as a flight attendant. Well, first of all, how did you get into that?
How did I get into flight attendant? Well, 2019 was a rough year for me. I was divorced. My father was passing, and he didn't let me know he was passing. And one of the things, he started having conversations with me towards the end. One of the things he said to me was, I want you to travel. You've already taken care of your kids, your ex-husband, everything. I want you to take care of you. I didn't know what that meant, so he said, do something with travel. I was 49 years old at the time, so I didn't know what that meant, but I noticed like a month after that one of my friends said, why don't you become a flight attendant? So I tried it. I said, let me see. July, like a whole month after my dad passed away, I applied to all the airlines, and every last one of them called me back. And I was like, whoa, wait, I was just kidding. I just wanted to try. I just wanted to see. So I just started doing my research because I knew I had a mom still in Charlotte who wasn't well herself. So that's how I chose Allegiant. They were the only ones that let you come home every night to where I could still do my mortgages. And you come home every night and you could choose your base. I didn't want to be far from Charlotte, so Knoxville it was. It was kind of Knoxville.
And so... How did you enjoy being a flight attendant?
It was fun for the first few months because 4 months after I started, the pandemic hit.
Oh, wow.
So
were you still doing it during the pandemic?
I was doing it during the pandemic, and I thought I was going to be on someone's YouTube video trying to tell people to put their mask on every day. But thank God that y'all didn't see that. I made it out.
And what's some of your fondest memories of being a flight attendant?
Just having a good crew for the day. If we had a long day, if we had like a 15 plus hour day, having a good crew and having a good lunch packed made all the difference in the world. And to this day, I still hang out with some of the flight attendants and the captains and all that. But I think that's the best, just the bonding, because we were like a family at Allegiant. We really were. This is not an Allegiant commercial though, but you know. it was cool.
So what made you decide to leave being a flight attendant?
Well, I was still doing mortgages, and I knew that's always been my bread and butter. Then I started going to these blues jams. And then I started singing, and I'm like, okay, this is not practical to have a gig that ends at midnight, and then you get a 3 a.m. call to come and fly. So I had to wait, and I was just like, nah, I love mortgages. I love singing. Yeah, one of these things got to go.
All right, so let's go back and talk. So you said you're from Charlotte, North Carolina, right? Mm-hmm. So talk about your childhood and what you remember from your childhood and what it was like growing up in Charlotte.
I think I had the best childhood. Like, they called us the Huxtables in my neighborhood because we were one of the few families in our neighborhood that had mom and dad. So they called us the Huxtables. So everybody in the neighborhood, from what I know, they respected us because they thought that, wow, they got mom and dad in the house. And so it was just the normal life of watching Dallas, watching The Love Boat on Friday, Saturday night, eating popcorn together, having dinner together. It was that wholesome. I call my parents Ward and June Cleaver because they were. And but it was just, my childhood was very wholesome. My childhood was very, very, very wholesome. It's crazy. I mean, I'm grateful for that. And, yeah.
Are there any particular childhood memories that stand out to you?
Yeah. I think we talked about this before, where I had the Donnie and Marie Osmond tambourine set. Remember I told you about that? Mm-hmm. That my parents bought me. But I already had long hair, but I would put a towel on my hair to make my hair about as long as Cher's, like Sonny and Cher. And I would have my little microphone. I'd be like, I got you, babe. You know? I mean, it was like, because I was always in my room. I was always singing. I always wanted to be someone's background singer. Never wanted to be in the front because I don't like people looking at me. I just didn't.
Okay, so how old were you around that time?
I was 7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was 7. And I played my little 8 tracks, my 45s, and my 33 and a thirds.
And
but that's for old people.
What else were you into music? I mean, what else besides music were you into as a child?
I used to want to be a music teacher, which was crazy because I had my violin, and I would like sit my baby dolls up on my bed, and then I would draw on my little chalkboard that my dad bought me, and I would draw little notes, and I'll pick my violin and I would teach my baby dolls the notes. This is when my dad didn't like me playing the violin because it sounded horrible in the beginning. But I wanted to be like Mr. Ray, who was mean to me. But that was my violin teacher.
Okay.
In elementary school. He was mean, but he knew what he was doing.
So you were in the band in elementary?
In elementary, I was in orchestra.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So talk about the teenage years. Growing up.
All right, teenage years, you know, you're trying to have your own identity. I went to Kennedy Junior High School in Charlotte. This is when I became a cheerleader. So it wasn't really cool to be a cheerleader and carry a violin around school. That wasn't cool, you know, especially on game days. You have your cheerleading uniform on, and then you're lugging around your instrument like, yeah, I'm a nerd. You know, I felt like I was a nerd, but it was cool. Yeah. It was cool.
Okay, so you were still playing violin. You've been playing violin for a long time.
Since the 3rd grade.
Okay.
But it was funny that when I got to junior high school, and when it was time for me to go to high school, and we had to do our schedules. And I called myself Xing out orchestra because I just didn't think it was going to be cool in high school to be a cheerleader playing the violin again. And I'll never forget Miss Ann Matthews, my violin teacher. She came and got me out of my ninth grade class. And she said, I looked at your schedule and you don't have violin. You don't have orchestra on there for high school. And I was like, no, because it's not cool. But she literally had tears in her eyes because she said to me, you're such a good violinist. I don't want you to give it up. And that just made a difference in the world as far as music wise. And I went to the office and I changed my schedule.
Really?
I changed my schedule and I said, no, let's add orchestra. And like that whole summer, she would pick me and one of my other girlfriends up on the summertime. Well, she played the cello and we were at her house. That's how I spent my summer, sitting at her house playing my violin. She was playing her cello. And I just felt like I was letting her down if I didn't do it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So
now, at what point did you kind of like start singing on a regular basis as well? Was that during high school or was that kind of after you graduated?
Well, no, I was in chorus in junior high and high school. And in college, I was a music minor. So that's where I learned. I was already still playing the violin, but being a music minor in college, you had to learn whatever my main instrument was, which was the violin. I had to learn all the other ones. So I learned the violin, viola, cello, and the bass. I was only almost 5 feet when I was in college, so the bass was kind of hard, and I had little fingers. But I learned percussion. I learned how to play keys. But I fell asleep in that class a lot because we were partying. We had headphones on, and I would like lay my head back and fall asleep in the keys class. But it was good. It was good. So I started doing that. I was still singing just around campus. No one really knew that I could sing until like here recently. Some of my college friends, they were like, you were singing. I was like, but I mean, my college boyfriend knew I could sing because every time a song come on, I would be harmonizing with it. And he was like, oh, you could sing. And I was like, no, that was it. But we'll sit like outside of our dorm room and sing sometimes in late night because that's all we could do because we didn't have a car.
Okay.
We couldn't go anywhere. So we were just out there singing, trying to harmonize. But no, everybody didn't know. Because I was too shy. I didn't think I could sing.
What point did you actually start getting out and, singing out, doing gigs, performing?
I would say in my early 20s, my pastor's son, his name was Andrew, he would play around Charlotte during weddings. And of course I was in a choir at church. So he was like, hey, you want to come and do this wedding with me? And I was scared to death. But I was like, yeah. So, I'll make a little bit of money. I was like, oh, this is cool. So all I did was weddings around Charlotte. I didn't do anything. But it wasn't until in the early 2000s when I moved to the DC area. And, everybody up there can sing. Like, so many people up there can sing. But they would, I would be singing in the choir, or I would sing certain groups like Greg Robertson Soulful. I don't know if you know Charles Butler and Trinity. They just won their first Stellar Award last year. Okay. But so I would, sing sometimes with Charles. He was our music director. But I recorded some with Greg Robertson Soulful. You got to look them up. They're out of Hampton, Virginia. And then it just kind of took off. Tanya Blunt, I was literally talking to her last night. If you don't know who she is, her and Michael sings with the War and Treaty in Nashville. And they were on the Country Music Awards, and she used to be on the praise team with me. She's one of the ones that pushed me out front. Okay. Because she says, I'm getting ready to leave, and I want you to get up front.
So she's from Charlotte.
She's from DC.
DC. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm sorry. Let's go back.
Let me go back. So you missed it when I left Charlotte. I moved to DC in April of '99.
Okay, and what brought you to DC?
Well, my family's from DC. My brother, they were already there, and I wanted something different. And so I rented my house out in Charlotte. Me and my daughter went to we moved to Northern Virginia, which is right outside of DC, and just was part of the church there, and just started singing in the choir. And Pastor Anthony G. Macklin, he knew everybody because he was a musician himself. So yeah, so the musicians that came through our church played for Raheem Devon, played for Lettucey, played for Will Downing. Like, those are the musicians that we had playing at our church.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know them all. They're still doing very well.
And I know at some point you mentioned to me, and did Ari Spears, did he?
Aaron Spears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aaron Spears.
Aaron Spears.
I'm thinking about the comedian, but
yeah. And my pastor's son, Brandon Macklin. He's an amazing drummer as well. He played for the group Daughtry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he's still doing his thing too. So I've been around musicians for a very long time.
All right. So how long were you in DC?
12 years.
12 years. Mm-hmm. And then from DC you went
back to Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. And what brought you back to Charlotte from DC?
Because my parents were getting older, and I wanted to be closer. And my son was getting a little older, and I wanted him in the country.
Yeah.
I didn't want him in DC.
I hear you.
Not there's anything wrong with DC.
Yeah.
Some people are good, but yeah, I just wanted him around family.
And so how long were you back there before coming to Knoxville?
2011. 2011. And then I moved to Knoxville 2019.
And
wow.
and what made you move to Knoxville, Tennessee?
I needed a change. After my father passed, something needed to change.
But why did you pick Knoxville?
Because that's the only place that the airline was giving me. I wasn't moving out west. Yeah,
that's how you made the decision to come here.
Because they said Asheville and Knoxville were the closest bases to Charlotte, because I wanted to be close to Charlotte.
Okay.
And I didn't want to be in Asheville for some obvious reasons, but so Knoxville was the next best thing, and never been to Knoxville. I saw Knoxville for the first time when I came up for my face-to-face interview.
Really?
I mean, I thought it was a beautiful drive, so I was like, oh, I can do this.
Wow, okay. I don't think I knew that. I don't think I knew that that's how you chose Knoxville.
That's how I chose Knoxville, because I was like, I don't want to be in Asheville. The next one up is Knoxville. I didn't know anybody. Well, it's funny. I did know two people, and it's funny how I met them. And I didn't know how big they were on the music scene. Is Kelly Jolly and Will Boyd. I met them in 2017, 2018 on a cruise. They were singing on a cruise ship. And then I knew when I was getting ready to be a flight attendant, I remember messaging Kelly and said, hey, I might be moving to Knoxville. But I met them years before I moved here.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool.
And so talk about your time here in Knoxville. And so since you've been here, you kind of really starting to branch out on the musical note, right?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. Well, we'll talk about first, I guess, how you got started here on the music scene in Knoxville.
We're going to stay positive, right?
Well, you know.
Okay, you know what? I'll say this. 2019, I moved here October 2019. I didn't like where I was staying at the time, because the airline, say, oh, here's your mentor. So I still had my house in Charlotte. So my mentor was like, hey, I'm going to rent a house in Maryville. I'm gonna rent a house in Maryville, and you can stay here for little to nothing while you still transition. And I remember I didn't like being at home where I was, so I would go out to play Singo.
Oh, so where were you living when you first moved here?
In Maryville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a good side of town. I didn't like it. But I remember I just needed to get out, and I went to Smoky Mountain Brewery in Maryville, and going there, and I went and played Singo on Thursday nights, and then I would see a band come in or someone come in after Singo. And the first person that I met was Tommy John. It was pre-pandemic.
Okay.
And Tommy John was playing, he did a solo thing. And so one of my friends that was there was like, hey, she could sing. I was like, don't do that. I don't know him. And so after his break, he was like, I heard we have somebody in here that's a flight attendant that can sing. So Tommy John calls me up there and we did Alicia Keys, If I Ain't Got You. And then the next week after that, that's when I met Jay Storm. And Jay Storm, and yes, I will say this on camera. Jay Storm was like, I heard you can sing. Let me throw something at you. And I was like, fine, do it, Jay. And Jay was like, all right, follow me. I'm going to do this. And he did the, if this world were mine, I would place at your feet. He was like, I bet you don't know that. I was like, if this world were mine, I will make you a king. And he looked at me. I was like, you tested me, Jay. So, but I met Tommy and Jay, and then the pandemic hit, of course. I didn't hear from anybody else anymore. But when it came back, I remember Jay texting me and saying, hey, they're lifting, going out in live music. He said, hey, come to Buckethead on Monday nights or come to Rogers on Tuesday nights. I was like, okay, I'll come. And I came, and that's when I would sing a little bit.
Okay.
And yeah. And then there are some other things I really don't wish to talk on camera, but they weren't positive things.
Yeah.
But that's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, because when God gives you a gift, that gift will make room for you. You don't need anybody else. So
at what point did you, well, number one, decide that, okay, it's time for me to do my own projects? And how did you come up with the band to do that?
Well, there was a young lady who I did a gig with, and she basically couldn't make a gig that she had because she had personal things going on, and she asked me if she thought that I could do it. And I said, I'm not sure, but I'll try, because my mindset was these band members were already hired and I didn't want them to have to go without. So I was like, I'll try my best. I know these songs. I'll add the songs that I know, and then I'll do it. So the guys that played for me for that gig that I accepted because I was asked if I could do it, they wanted to see me move forward. And so when I got another gig just after that one gig, when I got another gig because somebody saw the video, and I asked them because I really didn't know a whole lot of musicians, they were like, yeah, we'll play for you. You know, we want to see you succeed. And I thought that was the way it should go. Yeah. The way it should go. It's like, hey, we got somebody new on the scene. Let's help them out. Let's, you know, and then from then on, and then I knew at some point I needed to find some musicians of my own, because I didn't want to, you know, step on anybody's toes and use their musicians. So I found some other musicians at Rogers.
Okay.
At the Blues Jam. And they were willing to play for me, and the gig started growing, so they played for me.
All right. So, do you remember the first concert that you ever attended?
Yeah.
Who was it?
New Edition.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember what I had on.
Well, since you remember, what you have on?
I remember I had on these black leggings, these flat black shoes. I had on this royal blue shirt that looked like it had paint. It was that 80s thing. It looked like it had paint through on it. And I had my collar flipped up. I was fly. New Edition.
Well, number one, what is it about that concert that you remember? And how did that first concert impact you?
Well, I was in love with Ralph Tresvant, like most girls were in the 80s. And I was a candy girl, and everybody in the 80s had their little shirts that had Candy Girl on the back because we all thought we were Candy Girls. But it was how they sounded, and I used to love their little dance.
Yeah.
You know, that, yeah. And they just sounded so good, and the band was good, and I loved it.
So what impression did it leave on you from an artist standpoint?
I still wanted to be a background singer. I wanted to sit on the stool. A little bit of love is all it takes. A little. I still wanted to be a background singer. I didn't want to be up front. Just put me in the back. But I think after I saw Luther Vandross in concert.
Okay. Oh.
And his background singers, I was like, that's where I want to be.
Really?
Because they would sit on that stool.
When did you see Luther? And
where
were you?
I was in Charlotte.
Okay.
And it was at the Pavilion, and I think it was in my early 20s. I had to be like 22, 23 years old, and he was singing "So in Love," and all I remember was the background singing, "So amazing to be loved." I was like, I want to do that. I want to sit on a stool and just sway. That's what I wanted to do.
Is there anybody, let's say, who are three people that you haven't seen in concert yet that you really, really would like to get to see?
Well, one of them's dead now.
Who was that?
That was Whitney. I never
okay.
got to see Whitney in concert. But pretty much the people that I wanted to see, like I've seen Patty. I met Patty when I was 16 years old. And I was able to go backstage with the job that I was working, and I still have my little signature. So I met Patty, who was somebody I wanted to see, and I saw her. Like up-to-date people, like my daughter and I, we went to see her several times.
Really? Okay.
I'm in love. I mean, we went to see her before her actually blew up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When me and my daughter, she had me hanging out, and now I'm addicted to her. But
and all these concerts you saw in Charlotte?
Yeah. No. Now we followed her. We were like little groupies.
Okay.
We actually drove to Raleigh and did a whole weekend of a whole night of going up there, having dinner, seeing her in Raleigh, coming back. But yeah, I saw her first in Charlotte twice, and but yeah, she's amazing. And we saw SZA. You heard of SZA?
I'm not too familiar.
Yeah, SZA's pretty
I've
good.
heard the name, but
SZA's pretty good too. So but everybody else I have seen because I worked for an amusement park like Dollywood. I worked at Carowinds.
Okay.
And they always had the stars come there.
Oh.
So I was able to see those concerts because I worked there.
You seen Prince in concert?
No. I want to see him too. And I couldn't see him. Yeah. But I was young. So I wasn't able to see Prince. Definitely everybody that I really, really wanted to see are like dead now. Unfortunately.
Stevie?
Yeah, I saw Stevie.
You did?
Yep, I did see Stevie. What was the album?
Which one? Songs in the Key of Life?
Yes.
Okay.
I saw that downtown Charlotte.
Okay. Well, was this the recent tour that he went on a few years ago?
Mm-hmm. What was it, about 5 years ago?
Yeah, roughly?
Yep.
Okay.
I was there. I saw that one. But yeah.
All right. So what's up in your musical future?
Well, I was talked into entering in Knoxville, The Voice. Is that how they call it? The Voice Knoxville?
Yeah.
All right. Michael Snodgrass talked me into doing that. So I did it, and I didn't let anybody know because, you know how you doubt yourself. I did.
I definitely know that. So
I did not let anybody know until after the third round. after the third round, and so I'm now one of the finalists.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes. I pray I make it, because now that I made it this far, it's like, now I really want to win. I really want to win. And so, you win $1,000 and you win a studio session in Maryville.
Okay.
So I definitely want to record, because I've been, since I've had a lot of major things happen in my life, I've been writing a little bit. So.
Okay. So yeah. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
So do you have some finished songs, or are they all still in the making?
No, I have like 2 finished songs.
Okay.
I think it's finished, but I'm having I don't know if you've ever met Sherry Spinazzola.
I haven't met her yet.
Yeah, she's amazing. We went camping, and I'm having her look over my lyrics now.
Okay. Have you done any recordings at this point?
I have.
And who and what were they for?
Forrest and Juan, they went to college with me. They're both amazing musicians. Of course, they do their own job. I think Juan is still doing music. He teaches music in high school. He's a high school music teacher. Forrest has his own studio, and he's doing all that. So I did do a few recordings with them. We're gonna pick it back up. So, but they are amazing writers, and Kenny Harris. So Kenny Harris, Sparks McFeeters, and Juan Eckert. Those are my dudes that we went to college with, and they're serious about their music.
Now, did you tell me that you did some gospel recordings?
I did.
Okay. And what were those for?
That was Greg Roberts and Soulful.
Okay.
You can YouTube them, and you'll hear it. You'll hear that CD. And then also my church in Maryland, I went to a mega church. We did a recording, the Glendale Baptist Church recording. It was pretty good. That was a pretty hot CD. But Greg Roberts and Soulful was my main gospel recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what you got coming up?
Get through The Voice. June 4th. I got to get through that.
That's the next.
That's the final.
June 4th.
That's the final.
Okay.
It's 6 of us. So.
And where can people follow you and keep up with you?
You can go on my Facebook, which is Victoria Flowers, obviously my name. My Instagram is Ms. Victoria Marie 70. That's my Instagram. I think that's it. Ms. Victoria Marie 70.
I'll make sure to put that in.
Yeah, well, we might have to look at it again, because it's over there. You see it. But yeah, so they can follow me there.
All right, and what is it that you want people to get when they see you perform? What is it? What feeling do you want people to leave with?
I want them to feel what I feel. I'm like happy every time I sing. So I want people to leave there like, oh man, I feel, if I had a rough day, I feel so good because Victoria made me happy. She made me smile. Because that's how I am when I sing.
That's a fact.
I like to be, I want people to feel that same thing. So when they go home, they're like, oh, I'm so glad I came out to see her.
All right. And last but not least, any last words? It can be with whatever it is you want people to know, a thought, a philosophy.
I'll say this. Because I never thought in a million years that I would be gigging and singing at 53 years old, that never give up on anything that you have thought about doing in the past, because just because you're at a certain age, it doesn't mean that it's the end.
That's a fact.
doesn't mean that it's the end. And people are now seeing. I had a cousin say that today. She told me that I was an example to the family, and I didn't realize that. But yeah, I used to always want to be a singer as a little girl, and I didn't do it. But I chose my path. I chose to be a career woman. I chose to be a mother. I chose to be a wife. I chose to do all of that. But now that all of that is done, I'm like, let me revisit some of the things that I really wanted to do. And it's happening. It's really happening. So don't give up. Just go for it. Like I've lost a lot of people in the past 6 months that are really close to me, to cancer, death, whatever. But I want to live my life. So live your life. You only get one shot at this thing.
Indeed.